I wrote a 50,000 word thriller over the last year, and the best thing I learned while doing that is something I want to talk about in this video. I think the best thing that a writer can do is get out of the way of his own writing. You see, writers are self referential, navel gazing people with an intensely strong lens on their own lives and minds. That's how they function, that's why they write. But when writing fiction, that very trait can work against them. The first book I wrote this year isn't the book I will release in the world in 2 weeks. Where did that book go? It's probably resting somewhere in the cozy corners of a Google Drive folder. In all probability, it will never see the light of the day. Not another soul will read that book. But why? Because when I wrote that book, I followed the advice new writers are commonly given: write what you know. So I wrote what I knew. I wrote about people who resembled the people I know. I wrote about writers, journalists, wildlife conservationists, consultants. I wrote about the biggest problems, the common ones, second thoughts about parenthood, doubts about starting your own venture, and about finding love way late in their lives. It was a good book, but a vanilla book. And you know why? Because I wrote what I knew. And what I knew was not sexy enough. The stakes were not high enough. And through the process of writing 50,000 words that were later thrown into the metaphorical dustbin, I learned something important. Not write what you know, but start with what you know. And then let your imagination and your darkest, deepest desires take control of your writing. Let the characters write themselves out. You cannot write these characters. You don't know them well enough. They know themselves. They need to speak their own truth. Just be a good enough medium without stopping their flow. I am happy to say that during the second book writing attempt of this year, I was able to get out of my own way. So, this book was born. And in 2 weeks, it will be out in the world. And who knows, maybe even in your hands? Maybe you'll love it, maybe you'll hate it. But I'm glad I wrote a story that is not what I knew. I wrote a story I found out about during the process of writing. And that, my friends, was the biggest lesson from writing my first ever novel. And this is why this experience will always be special.